Hello dear soulmates and fashion lovers, you're welcome to Sew with Effie. In this tutorial, I'll be teaching how to sew this trendy Bubu gown with invisible inner belt and ruffle sleeve. So if that's why you're here, you are in the right place. If you're seeing this channel for the first time, just know that you're always welcome back. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for checking back. Here on this channel, I post sewing techniques and well-detailed step-by-step tutorials on how to sew with both freehand and pattern drafting. Do well to subscribe, turn on notification, and drop your thoughts in the comment section. Without wasting much time, let's dive into the video. So I'll be placing my fabric into four. I'll be folding my fabric into four. I'm using a 3 yards of this pattern crepe. This is a 3 yards pattern crepe. So I'm going to fold into two first, like so. After folding into two, then I'll bring them together again and fold into four. So right now, just like I'm doing, I folded into four. So you can see one, two, that one is on four, so that is two, then three and four. So my fabric is folded into four. Remember, this is a 3 yards patterned crepe. So this is the measurements I'm working with: the shoulder 16, bust 46, waist, and other measurements. So the first thing I'll do is to mark out my neckline. I'm using 3.5 for the width, 3.5 for the width of the neck, and for the back I'm going to use just 1 inch. Yes, so I'm using 1 inch. You know the fabric is folded on four, so I'm cutting both for the front and the back together, but I'm going to cut out the back neckline first. The front neckline is a v-neck, so I'll cut out the back neckline first before going for the front. So I use 3.5 by 1 inch. I place my curve ruler, then I would curve it in. So next is to mark out our shoulder measurements. So we're going to divide our shoulder by 2, which is 16 divided by 2 gave me 8. So I'll mark out 8. The texture for the fabric is actually not really allowing the chalk show, but it gets better. So I just marked out the 8 inches for the shoulder measurement. So I'm going to use the rest because it's a long sleeve. I'm going to use the rest of the fabric for the sleeve. So on the hem of the sleeve, I'm going to come down by 1.5 for our shoulder slope. Yeah, so I just marked out 1.5. I came down by 1.5. Then I'll use my straight ruler to connect it to the neck. You know, there is no shoulder here. We just marked out that shoulder just so we can get the sleeve length. So I'm just going to connect that end of the sleeve, 1.5, to the neck. So it's going to serve as our shoulder slope. After doing that, then I'll measure our shoulder to waist measurement, which is 18.5. That is going to serve as our sleeve measurement too, because this bubu dress, the sleeve is actually a very big sleeve. Like, it's not just the regular bubu sleeve. So we're going to make our waist length the sleeve length as well. So that's going to serve like as our armhole. You know, normally when you want to make a regular bubu sleeve, you can just come down from your usual armhole by 2 to 3 inches, but this time around I'm using the waist measurement as the armhole measurement as well. So I just marked out 18.5 and I'm going to connect it with a straight ruler all the way, and I'll label it as waist W. So next, moving on, we'll mark out our waist to hip measurements. So our waist to hip measurement is 9. So I'm going to take 9, mark and take it all the way down and connect with a straight ruler as well and label it as H, the hip. After that, we are supposed to measure our full length, which is 61, but there is no need because this fabric is 61 inches. Luckily, normally it's supposed to be 60, but luckily 61. That means I'm going to just give it a very tiny fold at the hem, or I'll probably just weave it. So now we are going to take our round measurement. We could use our bust divided by 4 plus 5 inches, but I'll prefer to use the hip because the hip is the fullest part of this measurement. So I'm going to use the hip to get the circumference. So I'm using hip divided by 4. So I'll add 5 inches because it's meant to be a very free bubu. So that gave me 16.5. I approximated it to 17 inches. So I'll be placing that 17 inches on the bust line. That waistline that we measured, yes, I'll place the 17 inches there and mark. I would also place it on the actual hip line as well and mark, and that's what I'm going to take all the way down to the hem. Remember, our fabric is folded into four, so when you open that, it's actually going to give you this very full bubu gown. So I used the fullest circumference of my measurement, which is 47, the hip divided by 4 plus 5 inches. So for the armhole curve, at that point where those two lines meet, I just came down by 1 inch. Then I'm going to use my curve ruler to curve it. But this is not what I used because it was not looking like the curve was too small. I really wanted it to be big, to be wider than that. So, but I don't want it to be too wide. So I just had to, come down a little bit lower than that waistline. I came down, then I curved it back into the armhole like so. Now I'll just go ahead and cut through because we are done with the bodice drafting. This is very simple to make. This is actually very easy. So now moving on to the neck. Remember our fabric, we folded it the front and the back together. That is folded into four, and we use 3.5 for the neck width and 1 inch for the neck depth. That's because we are is on fold. So we're going to cut that. That's the back neck, but we are cutting it both at the back and front. We are cutting everything together. Then I'm going to just cut the shoulder slope down to the hem of the sleeve, like so. So now for the front neckline, I'll just open up the sleeve because that place is still folded. So I'll open up the sleeve at that point, like I'm doing right now. Then I'll open up the fabric. So now I have to separate the front from the back. So I'll just take the back out of it like this. Then I'll go ahead to place the front down again because we just need only the front. We need to get the front neckline. So remember, our front neckline is a deep V neckline, but we don't want it to come down lower. We don't want it to get to the bust point at all. So the shoulder to bust point, that's why we need our shoulder to bust point. Shoulder to bust point is 13. So that neckline is not supposed to get to 13, else your everything will be out. So I'm just going to use 9. Now you use whatever you want at this point. Just know that it's a deep neckline. So remember, we removed 1 inch for the back neckline. So I'm just going to place that 1 inch on that part that is open and mark 9. Or you can just put your tape on the neckline wherever the fabric is, like I'm doing right now. Then you just mark 8 inches. So at the end of the day, you still use 9 inches because 1 inch is already out of this fabric because of the back neckline that we cut. So I'm just going to mark that 9. Then I'll get my ruler. You could use a curve ruler or a straight ruler, but I'm going to show you how the both of them look. Now I'm going to place my straight ruler on that neck width of 3.5 and connect it to the 9 inches that we just marked. So you're going to see how the boats look like. The straight, you choose what you want, either the straight ruler or the curve ruler. So I've marked it. I'll go ahead to use my curve ruler as well, doing the same thing, but the curve ruler is going to give it this this little curve. So choose whatever you want. Me, I just prefer the effect the curve ruler is giving. So I'm going to stick with the curve ruler v-neck. It's still a v-neck, you see it at the end. So now I'll just cut through the neck. After doing that, then I would use my pins to pin down the neckline. That's the front neckline together, so that because I want to cut the facing for both the front and the back neckline, and I don't want it to be shaking. That's why I'm pinning down. So I just took from the pieces of the fabric, then I would fold it into two, place it on fold because our necklines are on fold. So I'm just going to place it on that fabric, on that pieces of fabric that I folded into two. I'll use my pin to secure. Like, your pin is your best friend. I'll use my, especially when you're working with fabrics like this. So I'll use my pins to secure. Then I'll cut through the neck, just through the neck alone. I'll follow my neckline and cut that pieces through the neck. Then I just removed my fabric, so I measured 4 inches downwards from the neck, and I'm going to leave that upside. The width like that is 3.5. So for my facing, I have 4 inches after the neckline and 3.5 at the top side. So I'm just going to use my curve ruler to curve it to give it this, this nice look. So I'm cutting through right now. So that's it. We have our front facing. So moving on to the back, our pieces fabric is still on full. So I'm just going to place the back neckline on it like so. Pin pin down, secure with pins, and I'm just going to repeat the same thing literally. So I'll cut through the back neckline as well, cut through the shoulder too, like I'm doing right now. Then I'll take off my back piece, then come down from the neckline. That's the length by 4 inches, the same 4 inches we used at the front. Then for the width, I just added extra 3 inches. So now I'm just going to use my curve ruler to curve that corner a little bit to give it a nice shape. Then I'll cut through. So that's basically how to get your facing neckline facing for any. So here it is. We have our front facing and our back facing. So moving on, remember this dress, this Bubu gown has an invisible rope, an inner rope. So I'm just going to, this ruler is 2 inches, the whole of this ruler is 2 inches, so I'm just marking 2 inches in two places. So I'm going to cut it out. That's what I'm going to use because we need two belts. It's not just one belt, we need two belts. So I'm just cutting 2 inches out in two places for our belt. So here we are done with all the cuttings except the ruffles. We'll do that when we get to the sleeve. When we get to the sleeve. Moving on, it's sewing o'clock. So I took my back neck facing and my back piece, put them front facing front, then I pin them secure. So I just put them front facing front. Yeah, like so. Front facing front. Then I'll secure with pins and do the same thing for the front piece too. That's the front of our fabric. I'll do the same thing for the front piece to put the front facing front to the fabric and pin down. Then I'll head straight to the sewing machine to sew. Now I'm done sewing the neckline both for the front and the back. So I'm just going to carefully notch the area where I sewed on 0.5 inch. That's half of an inch. So I just notch the area and I'm going to give it a very good press so that it can lay flat. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to join the shoulders. I'm going to join the back shoulder to the front shoulder. So I'm placing my fabric front facing front, then I'm going to pin them together like so, then take it straight to the sewing machine and sew. I'm going to sew on this shoulder. That means I'm joining the front piece and the back piece together. So I'm sewing on both shoulders, that is on this shoulder and on the other shoulder. So I'm back from sewing. So this is what the shoulder looks like, and this is the neckline looking all beautiful. I've pressed it so it's laying flat now and looking beautiful. I'll put hemming gum inside that facing and iron it down so that it's going to lay really flat and be permanent. So now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fold the hem of my sleeve. I'm folding my sleeve on 0.25 twice. So that means I'm going to be using 0.5, or you can say 0.75 for the sleeve, like the way I'm doing it, so that the raw edge would be hidden completely. So I'm just going to fold it like that on the other sleeve too and take it straight to the sewing machine and sew. So now I'm back from sewing my sleeve and this is what it's looking like, looking all neat, super neat. So now the next thing I'm going to do is to sew the sides of our dress. So we'll put the sleeve together like so and sew it down to the hem, to the full length of the dress. I'll be sewing on 0.5. You could sew on 1 inch depending on what you want. But I just want to sew on 0.5 because what do we need the extra seam allowance for? We don't need it. Next thing is to take the hem of our dress, that's the down, and I'm going to fold it twice. I'm folding it twice because I want to conceal the rough edge. So I'm just going to fold first with 0.25, then I'll fold again with about 0.5. Overall, I'm just going to use about 0.5 to 0.75, then I'll sew. But if you don't want to sew, you can just, weave the down of your dress. So moving on, I'm done with that. Moving on to our belt, the inner belt. The belt is going to be placed inside of the gown. I'm going to show it in the video. So I'm just going to fold this belt. Just fold it and sew it to conceal the rough edge the way I'm folding it now. Then bend it again and sew. So I'm done sewing the belt. So we're going to be attaching our belt inside, that is to the wrong side of the front. Do you understand? Like this is the front where we have the v-neck. So now we're going to mark out the center front following that v-neck line. You know, the place we folded before, that's the center front. We'll mark it out. Then on the waistline, I will just go out by 6.5 on that side, and on this other side as well, go out by 6.5. So I marked 6.5 and 6.5. That is from the center front of our front fabric. So that's the point I'm going to attach the belt to. I'm just pinning it down. I'll take it to the machine and run a stitch on it. So this is how our belt looks like from inside. So when you want to wear it, you tie it to the back. Okay, so now it's time to cut the ruffles. So I'm using this veil net material. It's just a yard, it's just 1 yard. But if you want your ruffles to be fuller than it is in the video, you could use 2 yards. Okay, so here I've already folded my veil net. I've folded it multiple times, so just so that it can be very easy to cut, that's why I folded it. So I'm just going to mark 5 inches all the way, because I want to use 5 inches for the ruffles. So I'm going to mark 5 inches all the way until I've exhausted the net. So 5 inches, I'll take it down, continue marking my 5 inches, 5 inches, 5 inches, like so. This pattern of cutting veil net actually works for me all the time. It gives me this stress-free cut. So after that, I'm just going to go ahead to use my scissors to, cut out all the net in 5 inches. I'm placing them in 2 places just so it will be easy for me, because I have 2 sleeves. Do you understand? So when I cut out one, I place here, cut out the second one, place here. And now I'm just going to go ahead to, stitch together, just so I can have one long strand for the ruffles, and do the same thing for the other one. So now, after stitching, I'm going to measure my round sleeve, get my round sleeve measurements, so that I'm going to pleat my ruffles to that same measurement. Do you understand? Because I don't want excess and I don't want it to not be enough. So that's why you have to measure the round sleeve. So you're going to pleat your ruffles like that and stitch on the sewing machine. Like, just continue pleating and stitch. So I'm back stitching, and this is my ruffles. Look at how beautiful they look. They actually came out really good. So I'm going to get my sleeve, the sleeve of my dress, and place the ruffles on it. There are different ways you could sew this ruffle. If your ruffle is so full, you just have to place it like this and sew at the center. Just sew it at the center of the ruffles. Put it on your main fabric on the sleeve and sew from the center. Just sew it straight down on the same line you use in making the ruffles. So that way, when you're done sewing, you're just going to, use your hand to put the ruffles together, and your stitch line is not going to show. But this ruffles is not so full because I don't want it to be full. So I'm going to bend it, fold it the way I'm folding now, and sew like so. But you could sew it from the top like this. But if you sew it this way, your stitch line is going to be showing. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bend it the other way, like this, the other way, and sew from the down, just the way I'm pinning. I'm just going to bend it the other way. I would fold my ruffles into two and make sure I'm holding that ruffle stitch line and sewing on it, just the way I'm pinning it. So this way, when you're done sewing, your seam allowance is going to be invisible. Nobody's going to see. The ruffles is just going to be there sitting all pretty on it like this. So I'm going to head to the sewing machine and sew it down. And here we have it. Voila, we have our Bubu, our nicely made Bubu dress with ruffle sleeve. In this particular video, I tied the waist. I tied the inner belt, the belt that is on the waistline. So you can see the fit, right? And if you don't want it tied, you can just lose it. It's going to give you a free Bubu gown. So I'm just going to go ahead now to trim the ruffles because I want it to be, to be well placed. I'll just give it a nice trim on both sleeve. I'm just going to, cut out excess. Just trim it in a way that everything is looking well rounded. Like where everything is looking good, nice shapes and everything. I'm going to trim it to my satisfaction. So if you make yours and you feel the need to trim, please go ahead and trim. And if you feel it's okay just like that, then it's fine. You can see the excess I'm trimming off because I want everything to be equal. Here we have it, our beautifully made Bubu gown with ruffle sleeves, a nicely shaped V neckline and invisible belt is ready. If you watched this video to this point and you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Hit the subscribe button, turn on post notification and give this video a thumbs up. Thank you. I'm sure you found this video helpful. Do well to check out my other video on my tutorials on my channel. Drop your thoughts in the comment section or any style that you want me to make a tutorial on. I'll be in the comment section, okay? Until next time, stay blessed. Bye.